This is where I say, are we live? Well, then welcome to Let's Grow Pulling.
How's it going tonight, guys?
Doing good. How you doing?
We're awesome.
Colder than hell. Colder than hell. Yeah.
Larry, do we need to set aside the first 5 minutes just so that way you can get it all off your chest, all the Florida and back into the Midwest weather?
Sure.
I think you'd be good for it for sure. No, that looks like
the
Mickey
photo
Mouse
in our
survived.
background does well. The photo in the background does showcase Donnie's hat that he had on this summer, which was awesome.
So that's an awesome photo. Is that at Bowling Green?
Yes, that's Bowling Green.
Yeah.
So we're coming out of the gate strong with that picture. I was going to save this question for late in the show, but we'll just go load it up right there. Hey, Donnie, thanks for hanging out with us tonight. Bowling Green, Ohio, big win at Session 1 this year. Was that your biggest win on the year?
Oh, absolutely. Bowling Green is as big as it gets, and there were 60 trucks, and we were fortunate. We were the first hook, and we had some challenges. It rained that night, and they started late, and we were fortunate to drop to the back, and we had to make 3 passes, but it was worth it.
Is that the only pull that you guys did this year that's still implementing a pull-off process?
I believe so. I was surprised at that, but they did that night for some reason.
Well, they always insist that we have a pull-off. Their exact words to me was, when I used to do this job, was, isn't it still in the rule book? And I went, yeah. But no, they want to pull off. If you go past 350, they want to pull it off. And honestly, I mean, it's the show of shows, so I understand it, other than you're making another pass on your vehicle.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. That situation, it was late, and the fans had already gave up. And I mean, I'm all about it if there's people watching you, but there was nobody left, and it was just me and the other fella. And it was great to win Bowling Green. I don't care if anybody's there, but it's a lot better when you got fans in the stands.
Yeah, it seems like at those super national pulls, I've been to all 3 of them, but it seems like with the 2-wheel drive trucks at Toma or at Bowling Green, from my experiences, they either front load them and they'll start a show with the 2-wheel drives on like a Friday night or a Saturday night, or they'll back load them and then they'll pull into the late hours. So yeah, I imagine that gets kind of interesting when like you said, you had a field of 60. What time did your pull-off start?
I don't know. I was the first hook, and it was about 3 hours later I ran my second hook. And then I came back for the pull-off, and I didn't take my helmet off. It was you don't like to wait that long. You rather be fortunate enough to make a good lap the first time and just sit there and watch them all. But and we had issues. We sheared a couple blower pulley bolts off, and my team, Bonzi and Steve Grouse, helped me get it. Well, they didn't help me. They fixed it for me. I was doing something else, but I'm just fortunate to have good people help me.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It takes a team. With a lot of the guys that we have on here, that seems like that's a recurring theme. No doubt about it, is the week in, week out effort from everyone involved. And I think one of the biggest awards you see at banquet time is that mechanic of the year or kind of team of the year. It takes all of them to get it going. No doubt about it.
Yeah, we took on a lot this year. I mean, we decided to run the Grand National NTPA with the big stick, and my teammate Tim Beatty with the Sawmill Express, and we've always been PPL runners and hit a few Grand Nationals, but with Lucas pulling out, the schedule was light, so we decided to run the tractor primarily over there, and we kept Big Ed Red over there. So yeah, we were spread thin this summer, and we were fortunate to be able to be as competitive as we were.
That made it a fun, a kind of a fun announcement. We went up to Toma this spring, and you guys grabbed a parking spot where you were almost front and center at Toma. When you walked in on the west gate, you were parked right there, just almost at the end of the track, right there by the full pull, where the full pull tent was. So that was fun. When you look over there and you see the Kentuckian sitting right there, you're like, oh man, these guys are running here this year. So that was you always like to go out early and see what's going on. So that made for a kind of a fun.
Yeah, we ran
a fun way to start the season.
Yeah, we ran several of the mod hooks with the tractor, and then we ran a couple of light mods, and anything that didn't really conflict, we tried to support both organizations. And the rules got changed on our regular mod class with PPL, and it's just we kind of was in between we weren't in a good spot. Our tractor was fairly competitive, but it wasn't like it needed to be up front. So we're making some changes to try to do things a little different for it next year.
Larry, they're talking about rules crossing over from both organizations. That's probably your expertise right there, isn't it, man?
Well, I don't know. I don't know that anything is my expertise, but I know they had a good summer on both sides of the fence. So, what are you grinning about, Matt?
I'm just happy to hear it, man. I think, like we said,
sides of the fence.
piled higher and deeper, and just.
Did you? What? I didn't even pay attention. What did you finish with PPL points?
We faced 6th with the tractor and 7th with Big Ed Red on the PPL side. So the truck was really competitive because, I mean, the trucks, I mean, the water's deep wherever you're at. There's so many good ones, and there's so many.
Oh, yeah.
You can't go to a brush pull and not have good ones that will wear you out in a minute. I mean, it's just there are good ones everywhere. And the tractor was okay. I mean, we were fortunate at Bowling Green. We got the tractor in the winter circle a couple times, and we was there both times with the truck. I mean, Bowling Green is it's the mecca. I mean, that's Bowling Green, the farm show. That's the ones you want to go. That's the ones you want to win.
Mike Steffen wants to know about your mod setup. That was the other fun thing. So if we watch the farm show, the 2023 farm show, I think you guys ran 3 engines on the mod. And then we knew with PPL having the announcement they had, we were going to be curious where you ran the mod in the summer. And then if I remember right, did it show up with 3 engines at Toma? And did it run 3 engines all year long, or did it have a 4th on it kind of back and forth in there somewhere?
No, we ran 3 all summer. And then we ran 2 once, and I don't know. We're probably going to stick with the 2 and the 3 combination. If Dad likes the 4, but with the rules and the way our engines run, in the mod class with the small superchargers with 4, we don't feel ours are as competitive, and so we went to the 3. If we ever go back to 4, we'll try the unlimited class, but I don't see that happening for a few years. I think the mod class is trending more toward the 2 and 3 because it's somewhat affordable at that level. I mean, it's just and they put on a better show. I mean, they run faster, and the sleds can stop them still.
Yeah, and sometimes comparing the mods to the unlimiteds, it's almost like watching your diesel burners versus your alcohol. The mod's going to produce, or the unlimited's going to produce a bigger bang for your buck, but it seems like the mods give you that consistency, kind of like watching the alky burners. Alky burners might put it on them, but you're going to have 6 of them pop in the middle of the class every single time. It seems like the mod or the unlimiteds can almost overdo themselves at times in mods. I've never seen a bad mod show. When you look at that 7,500, 7,400 pound mods, they put a consistent run every single time. So you've got the 1471s on it right now with the 3-engine setup.
Yeah, that's what we're set up to go. We were selected to go to the Farm Machinery Show with the Kentuckian and the Big Stick. We didn't make it with Big Ed Red, but we were fortunate to get 2 of them in, and we'll run 3 engines with the tractor on Wednesday, and then the trucks in on Thursday. So we're excited about that 2-engine class that they're trying to get together, the light mod. I mean, we're going to try to run that and the regular mod, and I'm sure we'll run some PPL. I mean, there's good people there, and they've been really good to us over the years. John and Christy are great people, and they try hard.
Yes, and that's awesome. So you talked about running Big Stick and running Kentucky and at Louisville, and you talked about this earlier. The competition in a 2-wheel drive truck class. Is there almost anything out there harder to win than a really, really good lineup of a 2-wheel drive truck class? I would almost say that's one of the most challenging classes in either organization to walk away with a victory with.
I'm partial because we've been in the class since it started, but I will argue with anybody. I don't think there's a more competitive class with top-notch runners anywhere. And both organizations, I mean, we have a pool of our own. Larry's announced it several times, and we'll have 35 or 40 of the best there. I mean, it's just you got to be on your game every night, or you're not going to get a check, let alone win.
And then you go to Louisville, and you've got to mess with those 2-wheel drive boys from Texas who've had a lot of luck at Freedom Hall over the years too. So it's a tough class to win.
Them Zajacs, and all them guys are tough. I mean, I'm good friends with all of them, and they're good everywhere. Just some trucks travel more and some don't. I mean, and the thing about it, the ones that run the whole circuit, they got to make their best lap every night. Them guys that run the region and state levels, they're just as good, but they're going to come gunning at you for a home run. And they might not necessarily be able to do that every night, but they'll beat you on a given night. Just kind of like Bowling Green, the Skinner boys, they're tough pullers, but they threw the kitchen sink at it Thursday night and made a heck of a shot and damn near stole that thing.
Yeah, the water's pretty deep in that class. Yes, sir.
How about the Kentucky Invitational? Chandler's asking about that.
Oh, yeah, we're going. It's at the Kentucky Horse Park in Lexington, Kentucky, and we're running one truck on Thursday and then the other one on Friday. It's a TNT sanctioned event, and we run a lot of TNT stuff. They have a lot of pools here in Kentucky and Tennessee, and it's good competition. I mean, they're good trucks. Just like we said, the water's deep. I mean, the bucket list has been the champ the last 2 years, and I think they're back in the farm show, and they run as hard as anybody. They choose to stay closer to home, and there's nothing wrong with that, in my opinion.
That Kentucky Invitational, is that January? That's like first week of January, isn't it?
It's 4th, 5th, and 6th, I believe.
Yeah.
And I think they run a dozen trucks or so each night, and then the top 4 or 5 get to come back in the finals. It's similar to the Farm Machinery Show's setup for the way they do it.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. So one thing you've talked a little bit about, and I want to get Larry to tell him some stories from back in the day here. You've mentioned the truck.
I'm the old part all of a sudden again. Yeah.
No, you're like the resident historian. I don't know if maybe we put it that way. We'll glorify it a little bit. Tell us anything and everything you can for all the diehard pulling fans out there about the truck called Big Ed Red. That's got to be one of the most historic and recognizable 2-wheel drive pulling trucks there is.
Donnie?
I thought he was talking to you, Larry, but I'll
No,
talk.
either one. I want to hear it from the guys who
all I
experienced
know
it.
all I know is I was in Craigs Creek, Kentucky, pulling the first time I seen a 2-wheel drive truck, and it was his family, and they had a chain going up through the tailgate, and they hooked to that chain and went out there. What, I don't know, were they street tires, Donnie? What was it?
I think they
Anyway,
were.
yeah, and all I know is the 2-wheel drive truck picked the front end up, and of course I'm running a mod trying to beat his daddy and Bruce Hutchison and the likes. And I thought, what the hell was that? And the next thing I know, 2-wheel drive trucks was the thing to have. But yeah, his family, the roots of that class are right there.
We were the first set of organized rules was set up in our shop that we still work on our stuff in today. And
wow.
And we've been in the 2-wheel drive class from the very beginning. And sometimes don't get me wrong. The mod class is where I really like to be, but we can afford to pull the 2-wheel drive a lot easier. And we've made a deal. Well, my dad and myself talk all the time, and we told that, we're going to stay in the 2-wheel drive class as long as we're going to pull, because, we helped start it, and to be able to help make the first set of rules and then be able to still be competitive, let alone be fortunate enough to win a championship this year. That's a pipe dream. I mean, a lot of people can win a championship. I mean, things got to fall right. You got to be in the right spot, and you got to make the run when it's your turn. And the Grand National level that the Big Stick ran this year, there was 15 to 20 trucks that ran the whole circuit, and any one of them could have won the thing. It's just, you have to make hay when the sun shines. And like we threw the bottom pulley off at Toma and got a 38th. We were struggling, and we just kept digging. And our teammate Tim Beatty, we had to lead with him, and then he was in second. And Joey Frazier, one of the Petro trucks. If you can hang with the Petro clan, they bring an arsenal. Everybody knows that. They're King Randy. He didn't get. We didn't name him King Randy for nothing. He was. He was a man, and a good friend and great competitor. And I don't know, it's the 2-wheel drive class might not be as good to watch as the mods and different things, but if you want to find the most challenging class and the hardest class to be competitive in, you're not going to find a tougher class, in my opinion.
No, it's consistently very competitive. And that's what it takes to win it. Besides the stars aligning just right, you got to be consistent. You can't make very many mistakes, maybe one a summer, if you're going to stay in that top 2 or 3, but let alone win it like you did, Donnie.
Yeah, the thing about it is there's so many that it's not hard to get you like the point system with NTPA is 30 down to 15. It's not hard to get you a 15. And if you hang very many of them on yourself, you're in a deep hole. There's great trucks on every circuit. I'm good friends with the Nelsons from Illinois. There's not a team any stronger than that clan. And then you got the Petros and Seacrests and Nichols, and I'm sure I'm forgetting some, but there's so many you don't see every week. It's just as good as the others. It's just the ones you look at every week is the ones you really think about.
You talked about the scoring system a little bit, and I don't know, you can, and Larry and Matt and you guys can all kind of help me out with this. I assume it's always been this way, but I'm not sure. Now, when you run a Grand National point schedule, you're only competing against the other competitors who are also running the point schedule for points. Now, your cash payout's still going to be top to bottom, but you mentioned, your finish at Toma, and on my little stat sheet right here, it says you finished 38th, but you walked away with 9th in Grand National points. So you don't
among those that had Grand National license.
you're just competing for points against the other. Has it always been this way? Or was there a time where if a bunch of state pullers or local pullers bumped you way down, you didn't get those above 15 points?
Well, back in the early 70s, I think it was. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I used to hear Ralph Banner complain about the regional guys. At that time, it wasn't regional guys. It was somebody from the state coming in and knocking him out of some points. But whenever they went to, you had to choose between a Grand National level or a regional national level. At one time, it was a state national level.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever you chose the level license you wanted to purchase, that's the points race that you run. And you can only jump back and forth once during a season. You can't.
Oh.
You could. I mean, if you wanted to, let's say you buy a Grand National license right now, and after Louisville, you think, man, I can't support this all summer and go all those events. You could downgrade your license to a regional national and continue to run. But once you start earning points, that's the points race you're going to compete in.
Can you run both simultaneously?
No.
Okay.
You have to choose one or the other.
One or the other. Okay. So
Right.
that makes sense. We used to chew on that going to pulls on the long car rides. We'd pull up the results and we'd say, oh, so and so got second last night and a state puller got first. You know, he's going to walk away with 29 points instead of that 30 that he wanted. And then we'd look up the points and know he got his full 30. And I never fully understood that until we started looking at it. So that's probably that's how it should be, you know.
And a lot of the guys that are running points through the season, they may have started Toma with a regional national license, and they're doing really good, and they can upgrade at Toma if they want to and pay the difference to go to a Grand National license. And that a lot of people that are running points, Seacrest have asked me many times, who's on the Grand National list? And before it's published, you know, who am I actually competing against? Because that's just Seacrest is. He's curious. Anyway, but yeah, he would ask, you know, who am I actually running against for points? But no, I don't care if it's regional or state or Grand National. The water's deep in that class. I don't care what level it is.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I mean, honestly, it's probably the in my opinion, the reason the water is so deep is probably one of the most affordable, if it's such a word, classes at a high level, Grand National or Champions Tour, whatever you want to call it, that you can get into for a decent amount of money. I mean, and that's why any class like that, the 4-wheel drives or super farms or light pros, I mean, the more affordable, the more competitors you're going to have and the more competitive it's going to be, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's if anything in pulling is affordable,
right?
Which is, you know, it's just like there's no such thing as a farm stock. But no, it's you know, you have one engine to maintain and maybe a spare in the trailer or whatever, couple sets of tires. I mean, and 2-wheel drives aren't traditionally rear end and chassis beaters. I mean, how many times have you lost your rear end once you rear end was going to work? How many times have you had trouble with that, Donnie? Hardly ever.
Hardly ever. I mean, we'll cut tires 2 or 3 times a summer on the trucks, and with the tractor, you'll cut it every other weekend at the least. And then we fool with the mini rod with Fagundes a little bit, and you cut them every lap and hope you don't junk them and have to have a new set. I mean, it's just there's a whole lot of different variables for different classes. We've been fortunate to be able to dabble in several of them.
And the more I think about it, oh, go ahead, Larry. My bad.
There's guys in mini rod class that will actually change tires between the first round and a pull off if there's a pull off. I mean, Kester always had it. That's why he was always sharpening tires. He'd go back and change tires so that they were the fresh as there was. And somebody says, can he do that? As long as he goes across the scales, yeah, he can do that. And but you know, there were several people besides Larry that you didn't know it, but it was like a NASCAR team. Zoom, zoom, zoom. They're changing tires to come back in the pull off.
If you don't change,
class I know of it does that.
if you don't change the tires on the second lap, you can get by with the second lap on your tires and be competitive, but you'll jump that tire. It'll be done. I mean, you're better off changing them. Larry's exactly right. We've done that with Robbie's tractor.
Timothy Messer wants to know what it was like being a teammate to Chris Smith.
And that's a challenge. Oh, Chris, he's a good fellow. I mean, we've had a lot of fun together. Timmy's been with us before, but that's challenging at the least.
Is there an inside story here? That name doesn't jump off the page. I don't know if I know. You guys are chuckling.
We call him Smitty. He got the stimulus package truck. We were partners there when he started, and they got their own deal now. And Timmy, we were with him when he started, and we were all kind of young and dumb and had a lot of fun together. And I'm sure that's where that's coming from.
I love it. That's awesome. So another one of the comments was the Bowling Green party advocate, and he's a big fan. He watches a lot of our content. He had a great one a few minutes ago on his comment. Wants to know, where do you see the class developing, changing, better, worse, anything over the next 10 years? Two-wheel drive truck pulling. Where's it been in the past to get here, and where's it going to go going from here?
I don't know. Everybody got through a curveball this year with the new tires. I mean, Nichols came out with new tires, and Mayhill came out with new tires, and it changed everything. I mean, you had to, and I think it's going to continue to do that. I mean, I think it's going to be a big deal to Farm Machinery Show. It's just, that's changed it the most in the last year. I think it'll still be the most competitive class in pulling. You don't want to wish you didn't have as many trucks, but for the show purpose, the class would be more popular if we didn't have as many show up. But you can't tell people not to come. I have my own pull, and I understand that full-heartedly. I mean, you get tired of watching more than 15 to 20 of anything, period. And that's the downfall of our class. It's just the numbers, in my opinion.
And a lot of guys, I think, run a lot of similar setups, or they'll find a really sweet groove in a track. And there's always that point in a two-wheel drive truck pull where if you're keeping notes yourself, if you're not taking it out to the third decimal place, it seems like somewhere along every pull, those two-wheel drives really will stack up. And you'll have a lot of them sitting at 329.331, 329.302, and they're really going to find that spot. And as a fan, that can make it kind of challenging at times to really look at it as a whole and keep it straight. But at the same time, that's what makes it so doggone competitive. That's why it's so hard to win.
Right. In the last couple of years, especially the bigger distances they're letting us pull. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's spreading the gap out. I mean, you don't find that so close. I mean, you'll have a one now and then, but when they let you throw that big number out there, that changes things. Because if you hit it and you throw it out there, it's hard to catch for a lot of them. And then the 12 trucks later, the next guy will throw a bomb out there. I mean, it's just I don't know if it's good or bad for pulling. I like the one run deal, but and going farther is not a bad thing. It's most of the time the runs aren't any longer time wise. It's just it's good to know how they're going to set things up. Or if you're early in the class, to know how to set your truck up. That's the biggest challenge. I mean, if they're stopping you at 300 feet, you got to set it up totally different than if you're going to run 340 to 350.
Yeah. And if they're going to let you run 340 or 350, they're not going to hammer you too hard the last 15 feet when the pan trips and it's got you. So, yeah.
Which I think is a big reason a lot of the pullers have expressed they like letting them get out and run, because it's easier on equipment to be brought to a stop gradually as opposed to just that hammer dropping and everything kind of slams. You know, they like to come to a gradual stop for the purposes of equipment, is what I've heard.
Well,
it's a momentum game anyway. So, you know, if you can get running with it, you're going to go farther.
like in the summertime when you're going 350, it's totally different than when you go to the farm machinery show and run 250, 240. I mean, when the sled hits you outside, I mean, you don't need near the front end weight because it don't hit you near as fast, and you got more speed when it hits. You go indoor, that's why you see so many trucks, and I think it's going to be more this winter with the tire deal. I mean, there's going to be a lot of guys that can't even begin to hold the front end down because it's going to hit so early, because they have to hit you quicker to be able to stop you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just, when you throw that weight at you so fast, it just changes everything. That's a different animal down there.
What about when you pull? I'm assuming, with it being in your home state, have you pulled at Brandenburg?
I have. It's been several years. That's a neat pull. It's
Do you run almost more of an indoor setup at Brandenburg? You can't go 350. That is an indoor track outside, essentially.
Yeah, but you still get over 300 feet.
Yeah,
that's a big difference. That 240 to 300, and then you just throw 350 in there. It's different. I mean, for the truck class. Now Brandenburg, that's a great pull.
If you went over the hill, you could go more than 300.
Yeah.
Right.
I've never had the guts to look over the hill and see what's there, but if you went over the hill, it's like, who knows?
Now we haven't been able to pull there for several years, but Larry Phillips and I mean they draw a big crowd. I like the venue. It's challenging where you come in there and you only get to see 2 or 3 and then you run, but it's a good crowd and the people enjoy it.
Yeah. And great fried bologna sandwiches. My
Right.
God, best in the
best sweet tea. I will go on record and say this now, Larry,
right.
Matt. I might be a little more Southern than you guys. I'm not as Southern as Donnie, but far and away, best sweet tea I've ever had in my life comes out of the state of Kentucky and Brandenburg specifically.
They don't make tea down here if it's not sweet.
Man, it's I start getting a draw just the more I drink it. Oh man.
We were in Lexington, Alabama one time, and I went with a bunch of guys to pick up tow tractors, a bunch of Kubotas, 8 or 10 of us, and we stopped at a little diner thing on the way back from getting the Kubotas, and the waitress come up to the table, said, "Can I get your drink order?" And it was sweet tea, sweet tea, sweet tea, sweet tea, sweet tea. Got to me, I said Diet Coke. She goes, "Yankee, sweet tea, sweet tea, sweet tea." And I said, "Yes, ma'am, I am." But yeah, I was the only Diet Coke. Everybody else was sweet tea. Yeah.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Yeah. Sweet tea, sweet Diet Coke, Yankee. Yes.
Donnie, we had somebody ask thoughts on the NTPA 25 plus competitor rule. Is that Moose's? Yeah.
I think they nixed that. I think that was an early rule that they thought up that some wanted that, some didn't. I mean, in my opinion, I'd rather run against 15 to 18 every night, but I don't think it's fair to, if somebody comes to Bowling Green, for example, they're a region or state or whoever. We're all the same. We all put our pants on the same. I don't think it's wrong. I don't think it's right for them to be grouped, not in the whole flock. If they come there and they lay the run down, and when it's their number and can win the thing, that's a big deal. I don't agree with that grouping. That's my opinion, but I don't think it's going to happen.
And it kind of defeats the luck of the draw syndrome. If you did that, and it's been talked about for years, you either need to run first of the class, last of the class, middle of the class, but who determines that and how? That was always my question. I think it did get nixed. I don't know for sure, Donnie, but I don't have much communication on that side of the fence now. But I think you're correct. I think it did get cut from the rules. Yeah.
Right. the track's going to change no matter where you go to a certain point. But, if you look back at the results from, say, Bowling Green, we've been on that for a while. I mean, there's been trucks that win from the first spot. There's been trucks that win from the middle. They do the best they can. And every pool you go to, try hard to make it fair for everybody. And I think for the most part, it is. Weather conditions might change that. But like in a big group like that, you got to make your best lap when it's your turn. And some nights you're not in the position to be able to win. You might have to be able to try to salvage you a 7th or 8th and have a good night, because every time you back in there in a class like we're in, no matter how good a run you're going to make, you're not going to win. I mean, you got to be able to get past that. You want to win every night, but sometimes you're just not in the position to be able to do that.
I would imagine if you're hooking in a daytime session and you're hooking towards the back of the class, you're going to be in a challenging spot because it seems like the moisture is going to leave the track. Man. Or if you're hooking around 8 o'clock at night, the sun's going to set on your track, you almost want the opposite, and you want to catch it when the moisture is coming back up. Does that come into play, or is it just at the end of the day, best truck and a little luck wins?
Oh, I think you've seen exactly what you said on occasion, but more often than not, just like this year, my teammate Tim Beatty, he was the second hook, and he had the lead. I was like the 33rd hook. He had the lead till I ran, and I beat him. And we was first and second for a while, and then Chase Richardson was like the 50th hook in a daytime session, and I was really thinking I had it won. Mm-hmm. And Chase's little ass drove by me, and I got second. I was getting ready to double her up. You don't do that very often. I was pretty excited about it, but Chase is
no one does a better job of being consistent afternoon shows than Bowling Green first, and then I'd have to say Tom was a very, very close second. Bowling Green puts more sawdust chips and wood chips in than anybody, and the water they use, there's countless barrels of chemical back there. It's not chemical, it's pine saw soap they put in the water, and when they're spraying the tracks in the afternoon, that water doesn't evaporate as bad. And if you're standing at the starting line like I used to, they go by you and spray you. You can see the shine of the soap bubble in the soap, the water going to the sun. Oh yeah, it makes the water wetter, and if you can say that, but it's very consistent. It'd be hard pressed to say that the track changes that much. But one time in a drivers meeting at Bowling Green, I had 74 super farms, and I told them in the drivers meeting that if anybody knew of one that was running, they may be excused and go call the SOB, because I didn't want to miss a goddamn one at Bowling Green in the afternoon. But 74 super farms. And everybody thinks I don't like super farm. That's not true. But how many times can you watch Firestone? And some of them are good friends, but my God.
I tell you what, you'll get caught up in a day session or a night session in a big class, and it happens to us once or twice a year, is when you're the last class and you're on a 2-track deal, the other track will get finished, and then you throw all that track equipment running on one track. The track will change way more then than it will be in the middle. And that happens all the time. I mean, that happened at Toma this year. My buddy Beatty had it won, and the mods got over on the other track, and here they come. And about 10 more trucks, they just kept going and going and going. I mean, it just, the people running the vehicles, taking care of the track, they're just trying to help. But it makes it an unfair situation a lot of times. Larry knows.
But now, one thing, Bowling Green does not do that. They'll actually park the equipment on the other track. And if you ever watch it from a fan's point of view, that's a very, very, very choreographed operation from each end, but it also makes a difference where they meet and turn in the middle, the team from the starting line and team from the finish line. If they turn at the same spot every time, right there where they turn is double compaction. You can listen to the engines, you can watch the one wheels on the big mods. I mean, it makes a difference, and that's something that Bowling Green's probably the best at. But no, yeah, if everybody takes all their equipment from both tracks and puts on one track, big variable, big difference. Yeah, I agree.
I'd never thought about that. That makes all the sense in the world. That's interesting.
It's kind of like when if you're in a mod class.
Well, there used to be a red.
I'm sorry. If you're in a mod class, you always want to follow a turbine, because half the time the turbines won't make a lap, and you'll get half as much more track time, and it makes a difference.
Many times on the radio, when we had one broke down on the other end and the track crews are going out there and doing extra maintenance, I'd say, pull him off of there. Quit rolling, because they were doing a double pack. And then you get a few competitors that are looking for that, and they'll jack around, maybe not start as soon as you say fire up, and they're looking around and taking their time. They got 3 minutes, and they might get an extra pack out of it. Well, my goal was always not to give them that extra pack. But no, there's a lot of little things that Donnie knows and I know and his daddy knows. But I mean, unless you really pay attention, one extra pass with a roller can make a difference in how good that track is.
Never knew we had staging duels in pulling.
Oh, it happens. If you watch the two-wheel drive class, you'll see it regularly. I mean, there's some mega teams that really watch what they're doing.
There's 2 or 3 teams with several vehicles that will look when you tell them to fire, and they'll look, and then they'll have to look down the intake, and they'll jack around a little bit. I didn't say jack around, but they'll take their time, and then they'll look over their shoulder again to see if the track's like they want it. And the guy standing there where I used to stand and going, "Come on, damn it, let's go," and looking at his watch. They don't care if you look at your watch. They know exactly how much time they got, and they're trying to get all the track prep they can. Yeah, buddy.
I love it. I'm going to sit. I've always sat at the 320 mark, watch the money side of the pull. I'm going to go sit at the 75-foot mark and watch all the shenanigans back there next time.
There's a lot going on in the staging lanes that nobody dreamed of as far as, look at Donnie Green. Yeah, we know, don't we?
You're right.
Larry, have you ever beaten the Sullivans in the mod class?
Not legitimately. I was always one generation behind Wayne Sullivan and Bruce Hutchison's tractors. When they had 2 road acts, I had 1. And between Wayne and Bruce and a couple others, they were the ones that I aspired to win or beat. I mean, if they had a bad day, I might get them. But I mean, I was young and dumb and had a full head of red hair, but I also knew that I didn't really beat them. They lost to me. I mean, it's, one of those deals, but no, Wayne, nobody can respect anybody more than I respect Wayne and Donnie, but it's one of those deals that they were the ones that I aspired to be someday, but I was always one generation behind their whatever tractor they had. When they went 2, I might've gone twin, which I did. And it's one of those deals, but they were what I was trying to achieve. But I had a ball with them. Nobody was more gracious to me, and a lot of people have heard the story, and I won't tell it tonight. Donnie's heard it so much he's sick of it, but his dad was more gracious to me in the very first event I ever went to than I ever dreamed somebody like Wayne Sullivan in the Puller magazine would be to some redheaded kid that just built a tractor and knew he was going to break his stuff. Well, Wayne helped me and was very good to me. I respect the hell out of that family.
That's awesome. That's a top tier response, top tier story. So that's great. What about Fort Recovery? You pulled out a big one at Fort Recovery. Now, Bowling Green's got all the pomp and circumstance, but Fort Recovery might be one of the oldest and most historic pulls on the NTPA circuit. Major power track. You don't just walk into Fort Recovery and win either. But those are your 2 wins on the year. Tell us about Fort.
That was a great pull. I mean, Fort Recovery always tries to have a great show, and it was a great track this year. And we were fortunate enough to win the first night. And the only negative, I mean, that was a great night, but the only bad part is that was a weekend we were split as a team. Mm-hmm. I was with Robbie and Tim Beatty. We had the mini rod in his truck, but the only thing I could think about is I need to get back to the toter and see if they've started running in Evansville yet. And, it was great to win, and you should cherish every win. I mean, because winning at any level on the Grand National or PPL circuit is hard to get. I mean, if you think about it, Joe Etter, he's probably is won more pulls than anybody that in the common day. And they started talking about him winning 100 this year. And I'm pretty sure he didn't win a pull. I mean, and I've told several people that I've been associated with, you better cherish every one because you don't ever know when that next one's going to come. Because, I mean, the competition is hard. And we were fortunate. We won, and that was great. And then to be able to back it up at Bowling Green was really special.
Yeah, that last weekend in July is the heartbeat of the summer for truck and tractor pulling. You've got NTPA, who's running 2 shows, one at Brandenburg, one at Fort Recovery. PPL starts at Goshen that week and then just runs straight through on some stacked and loaded shows. And I want to say, I can't remember the Outlaw schedule, but that might even be pretty close to when they're going from the Iowa State Fair into the really thick part. That's talking about doubling up. That's a loaded weekend in pulling.
Yeah, it's a mess. I mean, we started that week all together Wednesday in Goshen, Indiana. Mm-hmm. And then we tried to run Wednesday. We got rained out. We ran Thursday. And then me and Robbie took the mini rod rig and went to Fort Recovery. And my truck was there with Beatty, and Dad and the boys went to Evansville and Altamont. But yeah, that's a hard deal. But we're making some changes. We're not going to do that anymore. We're going to stay together. And I mean, life's too short. We're going to have fun. And I'm not sure where we're going to solely rest our hat at, but we're going to stay together.
I like it. Yeah, I like it. That goes back all the way around to takes a team, takes family, takes a whole crew. Anything you haven't done yet in 2-wheel drive you wanted? Yeah, what's left on the bucket list for 2-wheel drive truck pulling?
Oh, it's never over. I mean, this year was pretty special because 19 was really special for my team because we were fortunate enough to be able to. My son won the PPL championship with Big Ed Red, and my dad won the championship with the tractor in the same year. And being a part of that, I finished 7th, I think, which I was happy. But I mean, that was big. But I hadn't won a championship since 07. I kind of didn't know if I could ever win another one. And my buddy Steve Grouse told me, if you want to get serious and you want to win one, we got to get a better chassis. And I didn't buy into that BS for a little bit, but I ended up being enough to buy a nice chassis from RJ that he gave up on. And we put a new different body on it and came out this year and won it. I mean, like I said earlier, I mean, there's several trucks that could have won it. You just got to be in the right spot at the right time and make the right decisions. I mean, and you got to have a lot of luck too. I mean, you can't have too many failures, like Larry said.
Did you say your son's
Can't
pulling?
stub your toe, but maybe one's good too.
I'm sorry, Michael? What
go
you
ahead,
say?
Larry.
No, go ahead, Mike.
Your son's pulling Big Ed Red?
He did, and my son moved to California on us a couple of years ago. Him and Jesselyn Fagundes. Mm-hmm. They've started a family out there, and he's living in Hanford, California now. And he's working with a Melanesia Motorsports out there.
Mm-hmm.
They got a couple pulling tractors and some drag cars, and he's doing really well. They got a little boy just turned 2, Brody. He's special, and they got another baby coming up here in about a month. So it's a long way from Kentucky. I miss the heck out of him, but and it hurt our team too, because we taught him a lot and he learned a lot. And when we lost him, it kind of took us a year or two to kind of revamp everything, and I had to start driving more and doing more, and it all worked out. But it's a long way from Kentucky, I'll tell you.
Yeah, they're running he's pretty heavily involved in the Golden State Invitational, if I remember correctly, isn't he?
Yeah, we went out there. My dad
Awesome.
and myself and Steve and my brother Danny, and they got a single engine and a twin engine, and Steve's got some nice equipment, and Brant's learned a lot, and he knows how to make them go. And they ran 4 times out there, and they won both classes. It was cool to get to take Dad out there to see that. So they have good shows out there. Just the equipment level is just a step behind, but I mean they have good pulls, and it's a good time. We enjoyed it.
Yeah, pulling any part of the globe is great, and that's awesome. So the Big Ed Red truck, did it leave your stable and come back to it at one point, or has it always been in your guys' hands?
Well, the Big Ed is my Uncle Eddie.
Okay.
He started. He was fortunate enough to win the very first sanctioned NTPA event ever they had, and when he passed at 49, he had a liver disease, and we bought that truck from my aunt. That was his last truck, and we named it Big Ed Red in his memory, and we ran it several years. And then we decided we needed a better piece, and we shuffled the deck and we sold it to Fred Toker from the state of Washington, because I didn't want to sell it and have to look at it. And we sold it out there, and Fred ran it a couple of years. He called me and wanted to sell it back. So we bought it back in, I don't know, 16, 17, and was fortunate enough to put it back together and won the championship. I mean, things fell right that year. I mean, Tim Messer and Jared Nelson, we were, my truck was better than Big Ed Red. My kid will hate me for that, but it was better. And we were all kind of home run hitters. We'd win one, but old Brant we set him up soft, and he would make a lap every night and get him a 4th, 5th, 6th. And at the end of the day, the last pull, we had a chance, and we won the championship. That was really neat.
Yeah. That's cool. That's a historic truck too. I would say that one and the Simon Says Dakota, probably 2 of the most historic 2-wheel drive trucks, 2 of the most historic pulling vehicles, most recognizable at least out there.
I'll tell you now, in Roger's prime, he was the best of 2-wheel drive, and that 10-year time there, old Roger, he was something. And then I think the Petros, Randy, I mean, there's nobody else been like him, in my opinion. I mean, we've done well on occasion, and I'm very thankful for that. But we went home a lot of times getting our butts beat, and that's hard. I mean, everybody wants to win, but it's a lot harder to keep coming back when you take that licking. But Randy, he learned the hard way, and he worked at it hard. And old Roger, I mean, we've had some major battles. I mean,
yeah,
I remember when Brandon and RJ was just him and my son Brant, they were all kids, and we went to Dubuque one time, and Roger, whether you can say what you want to about Roger, but he was as hospitable as you'll find. I mean, we showed up out there, and he was at our trailer at 8:00 in the morning to take us to the Field of Dreams, eat breakfast. Mm-hmm. He had like a 15-passenger van he brought out there to everybody that came from out of town. He was taking us out, and I got a lot of respect for the Simon family. Them boys are good people, and I take on a lot, but I couldn't imagine what they try to handle.
they're building a semi truck, as last I'd heard.
Right. Yeah. They're going to have nine or 10. I don't know. They crack me up.
Yeah, I joke and say that you could just have the Simon truck and tractor pull, and they could just pull their own vehicles and entertain a crowd for 45 minutes. They could just have an open class and just pull everything they've got or everything for sale. And you'd have a pretty decent show with just what's sitting right there in Farley, Iowa.
And they're coming after you every night. You know, they're not,
Yeah.
they don't ever lay down. Trust me.
Yeah. It's never not set on kill with them.
Yeah, they're tough. They're good people, and they got great people helping them now. Brad and Jordan. I mean, that's two of the best right there. I don't think they're any better than what I got, but they're really good.
What about Larry? Help me with this name. I'll keep talking over you. Go ahead, Larry.
They took 10 vehicles to Toma.
Yeah, think
10
about
pulling
that.
vehicles they took. Think about just hauling them there, let alone maintaining them. Yeah. Yeah, they're good boys. They work hard at it. Yeah.
You ever pull against the Floyd's toy? That was a real good name in the two-wheel drive truck pulling. And Larry, you and I were both at Chapel Hill this year, where something pretty special happened in memory of Floyd or on behalf of Floyd there. Any good stories? Is it Hilton? Is it Floyd Hilton? Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Like the Hilton Hotel.
Yeah, we ran against Floyd a few times, but back when he was running the Grand National deal, we weren't really running that circuit. But I mean, Floyd, he drug them around a lot, and he was competitive. I mean, he was a good fellow, but for sure.
He's the only
Matt,
one that ever asked me to put a
drive pulling.
Well, both of you went at the same time. We're all timed in.
I'm bad about that. I do more talking than I do anything else ever.
You're doing a wonderful job, sir. Wonderful job.
Michael,
usually that's me too.
Mike's awful about that. Yeah.
I like to talk.
Floyd Hilton story real quick. Floyd's the only puller I ever had ask me to put a portal at the starting line. And I said, what do you want, Floyd? I need a portalet, a portable toilet at the starting line. And I said, Floyd, you got to go pee? Well, yeah. I said, that's nerves. I said, Floyd, do you have to pee after you run? Well, no. I said, well, then just hold it or pee your pants because it's all in your head. I'm not bringing a portalet with a skid steer to the starting line. They say, what are you doing? Oh, Floyd's got to go pee.
When you got to go, you got to go.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but he didn't have to go. It was all. That's my Floyd Hilton story. I'm going to go over here while you guys talk.
No, it's okay. I think Michael was asking about two-wheel drive pulling. You know, around our neck of the woods, you got to go south or you got to go north for it. We used to see them right in Henry, Illinois, which we saw Papa Wayne run a good pass there this last summer. That was enjoyable. I know they had a track change that wasn't exactly what he wanted. And oh boy, it was fun to watch that first pass. It was exciting from the crow's nest. And I'm like, I've never done it, but I can guess what his attitude is towards that. But, it's just interesting because you see, like you said, so many of these. And, when you're talking about a half foot, I just learned so much tonight because, when you're talking about a half foot or a couple inches difference and guys stalling in the pits and making this work and just the little things, it's like anything else. You're there to win. You're there to win. Good, bad, or ugly. We're here to try and put her down. So, I'm just happy to be muted and taking it all in tonight. It's been enjoyable. Thank you.
What was the Henry? I didn't follow PPL very much this year. What was the track change at Henry? Did they flip the track?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Donnie, because you're going to have a better perspective for sure.
We were first in the mod class, and we made a great run. And we went way out there, and they pulled the plug on us. And we didn't like it at the time, but Bill and Shannon came back out there. Henry's a unique deal. I mean, that dirt out there. I mean, if you can get it going, you can drag it forever. And they changed the sled, and they went about as far. A couple of them did. So, I mean, we cried wolf, wanted to leave it alone, and didn't. They changed it, and Bill and them made us look silly. But I mean, Leicester and them's tough, and it's Henry's funny. That I mean, I've seen the track change 40, 50 feet in a 2-wheel drive class there. It's just that type of soil, if you can get it going, boy, you can really sling it out there.
Yeah, that crew's working hard to try and get that track in really good shape these days. I think there's been some change of the guard a little bit, and they're working hard to do that. And I said Papa Wayne's first pass, if there was a pile, he was going over it because man, he was going to hit that scoreboard. It was a beauty of a run. It's like, wow, and sitting up in the crow's nest and feeling that thing go by. I was like, okay. And then you heard the news, and I'm like, well, I could see a little frustration there for sure.
Well, to be honest with you, you kind of get caught up anymore, or we do. I mean, most of the time it's a one and done situation, and you can run them different. And if you got to run them twice, you can't run them like that. So, if and it happens not just to us. I mean, if you're first and you can lay one down, you got a hell of an advantage. I mean, the track's the best it's going to get. It's the smoothest. They've rolled it and rolled it and rolled it. And the trip on the sled, most of the time they don't drag the sled down the track. I mean, you got a lot of advantages being first if you can lay it down. And then if the sled guy's not on his game, which sometimes they are, sometimes they're not, they miss a little bit and you go way out there, you threw that run away. And it happens to a lot of people. And that's pulling, but it's harder in today's world because you throw so much at it on every lap, because most of the time you only got to make one.
I feel like I've seen that happen to Doug Theobald more than anyone. I feel like Doug runs that unlimited modified and he hooks first just by luck of the draw, and he has fallen prey to sled resets. I feel like that guy's had the worst luck when it comes to that, almost more than anyone I can think of.
Well, he got hung out at the farm show last year in the mod class. I mean, he made a great run, and I mean, he run as hard as they could run. And I mean, everybody wants to win, so you kind of wick them up sometimes, and you just can't. Like, no other sport does what we do. I mean, you run a drag car, an alcohol car, a top fuel car. They run them and they go back there and tear them apart. They want us to run them, and then they change the sled, and you got to come back and run them again in about 15 minutes. And you just kind of look around it. I mean, that's hard. That's kind of unacceptable, but that's kind of the game we're in. You just kind of got to take the good with the bad.
I've done that a few times and later thought, God, I shouldn't have done that. But I always tried to look at the second one if at all possible. There's another variable with being the first guy too. The pan is cold. Now, what did I just say? Does that sound silly? Jesse Petro several years ago started walking around with the damn heat gun. And I'm thinking, what the hell is Jesse doing? And he was checking the temperature of the pan, the metal under the pan. And I said, all right, Jesse. And Jesse and I have shared a lot of things in his young life. And I said, I got to ask you, what the hell are you doing? Checking the temperature of the pan. And I said, why? He goes, because after it gets heated up, it sticks to the ground a little harder. And I thought, all right. So I started watching. And sure enough, after a couple passes, without changing anything, if it was the right kind of soil and moisture content, the pan was sticking to the ground better. So first hook, especially first hook of an event where the pan hadn't been drugged down the track the last class and it only sat there for maybe 15, 20 minutes tops if they had to change a bunch of weight before the first hook of the next class. But Donnie's right. That first hook's got the best track of the class. It's been rolled. It's been leveled, maybe even been graded between classes. It's smooth. It's hard. It's been packed good. And the pan is colder. And I didn't believe that till I seen it. And I went, all right, Jesse's smarter than I thought he was. But yeah, it makes it, there's a lot of, Michael, you need to move the other end of the track and start watching stuff that can make a difference, whether a winner or a loser is driver A or driver B. And you'll figure out lots of times that driver Petro, does a lot of things to make it, if he can at all, to the best advantage he can get, including walking around with a friggin' heat gun. But I don't think he does it much anymore because now he knows. But when he was doing his research, I thought, what the hell is he? And I asked Vaughn because Vaughn had a radio in the cab, of course. And I said, what's he doing? I don't know. And I walked up. I said, what the hell are you doing? Well, I'm checking the temperature of the pan. And I the hell, but no, Jesse's a smart young man. Randy
What was
Randy
Mr.
was a
Bauer's
hell of a
reaction?
tuner. Typical Bauer. I'll be damned. Yeah, I'll be damned. But yeah, to quote him, lots of times he'll say, buddy, let me tell you something. That track's a piece of F or whatever, in the middle of the show or whatever. And if he's having trouble, but he'd go, buddy, that makes a difference. That makes it. But no, it's, yeah. But you're right. Doug has drawn a lot of first hooks and the sled got changed. But you're exactly correct, Donnie. When you go out there in today's world, when you're going to make one hard pass and take it to the trailer, you really don't set that tractor up to make two. And if a guy changes the sled on you, it's like, Jesus, you're killing us.
You're probably better
I've
off.
done it and I've hated it, but I try to watch the second one when I do it.
You're probably better off just to go to the trailer.
Remember that.
I mean,
remember that this summer when I'm adjusting sleds or not adjusting sleds at my newfound job. Remember that Larry said he tries to run a second one to make sure, and then he's only punishing two tractors. Well, I guess I'm punishing two tractors if I change it rather than one. But everybody deserves one great pass. But I mean, whether it's two-wheel drive, mod, whatever it is, I mean, everybody's going to have an excellent pass. But that first hook can be an advantage. 9 times out of 10, it is.
Well,
yeah.
Honestly, you don't. You can look down the list of any class. You don't really want one of the big hitters to be first, because if he's first and the sled guy's right and he's right, pulls over. Petro got us like that a time or two this year.
I've looked at lineup. I can't tell you how many times, and I've showed it to Vaughn and said, "You pick a winner." I can't pick one, but it was a lot of the times it's the way they lined up. I'd rather have a second or third place tractor. Not that I'm stereotyping anybody. I'd rather have a second or third place tractor as a test hook, because you have a better idea of where he should be, And I mean, the pullers do it too. They count weights. They see what gear Vaughn's in. They see where the trip's set. I mean, and all the sleds are essentially the same now as far as setup. But it's they about know where they're at before anybody hooks to them. But it's one of those deals where there's very little changes, but the one little variable can make a difference in 10, 15, 20 feet.
If you have a heavy hitter go first, or a couple of heavy hitters go first, and they pull a massive distance, I've seen it happen. That has got to be one of the toughest calls for the tech officials and the sled operator. We were at Fort Recovery. We'll go back to that, 2022. And the first 4 mini rods were like Adam Bauer, Ken Vaney. Right. I think Renee might have been third, and then like Tyler Saw or something like that. And they went like 370. Well, Adam was leading points that year, and you're like, that tractor can go 370. Now, no one you see 370, you're like, that's got to be a reset. But as hot as that tractor's been, right. And then Ken goes like, 390, and you're like, well, the rest of the field could very easily go 320. Those two tractors could go that far. And you don't know, is that, home run hitters hitting home runs, or is that a sled that's too light? So when you have the big dogs hitting first, it's tough to really measure your standpoint on that.
And when the track settles in after 4 or 5 hooks, where's it going to go? Forward or backwards with distances? I mean, once you're a Class D, that was always the hardest part of my job in the 29 years, was setting the sled. Once we got the sled set to a reasonable setting, I could have walked away. Sometimes I did. I turned 44 pro stocks one night at Bowling Green into 66. I had 22 go out the gate. And we were like 15, 20 vehicles in, and all of a sudden, track changes. And Vaughn goes, and I went, what the hell happened? And he goes, and I said, all right. And Vaughn wanted to move the full pull distance on down the way, which can be done with my new hat I wear, but it wasn't at the NTPA. And we consequently had 22 in the pull off, and that was a bad night. And the Schmuckers weren't very proud of me either, and I don't blame them. But everybody's had a dose of rich wine that rich wine wasn't proud of. But it's a tough call to make setting that sled. One of the toughest. Yeah.
Yeah, when you start seeing, especially back in the day of pull-offs, I watch a lot of reruns on pulling videos, and I can imagine that's a gut-dropping feeling when in the middle of the class, and maybe even some that you weren't anticipating, and you know, the flagman's just running back and throwing the green, running back and throwing the red because you've got 7 in a row that went out the back door, and you're like, ooh, this was not how this was supposed to play out.
No. There's been many a night when I went to the trailer and looked in the mirror and thought, wow, you screwed that show up. I mean, you know, and I had, but it's one of them deals. It's a tough call. But test hook has its advantages.
Donnie, where do you prefer to hook? First, last, middle, second?
First is the best, but it's hard for everybody to be on the same page when you're first. I mean, if you set it up right and you hit it right, and the sled guy hits it right, there's a good chance you're going to be the winner. But you know, it don't matter. I used to make yourself sick about what number you were going to be or when you were going to pull, but over time you just kind of, I don't try not to fret over the things you can't control. And you just kind of roll with the punches. And when you're in that position, I mean, when you're first, you got to be right, and you got a quick decision to make whether you want to take it or not. I mean, at the Enderley, I picked first, and I think I went 331 or 330 something. I knew it was a half-ass run, and I knew Petro was going to run over top of me, and I dropped it. And 10 years ago, you drop a 330 something. That's crazier than hell. But I dropped it, and I didn't make enough changes, and I came back, and he still beat me. But that's pulling. And I don't know. We've been fortunate enough to run a lot of pulls, local, NTPA, PPL, ATPA. We've been around a long time, and just thankful to be able to still be competitive and respected at a high level. And we work hard at it, and we've met a lot of great people like Larry, and there's hundreds. I mean, pulling's the greatest sport in the world, and we're going to keep going. I mean, Dad's 78, and we push hard to try to make his tractor better. And we're making some changes to it, and it's going to be better. So we're going to keep after it, and we enjoy being a part of pulling, period.
That's
I would
awesome.
agree.
It's a pretty hard runner for Massey Harris anyway.
There you go. That grill was on the very first tractor he ever pulled. So I mean, it's unique to us, and it's kind of, I mean, I love the mods. Looking at all them motors, that's unique. But they're kind of the monsters of the Midway. Any motorsports fan that walks through the pit area, they'll remember that more than they will a top fuel dragster. I mean, because it's just got so many motors, they can't figure out how they all work. But to have the grill on there, we think that's, when I was a kid, I'll be honest with you, we had a hood, we had a full grill and all that. And I hated that thing. My brother and I, every time we had to work on anything, we had to take bolts loose and take that hood off and put it back on. But now you get a little older. I mean, that's what they know it by, the Massey Harris when it comes out there. So we're proud of that. And as long as we're pulling, we're going to have the Kentuckian.
So we do a lot of traveling and we go to a lot of pools, and there are members of my family that don't know what it is, don't understand it. And when I start explaining it to them and showing them pictures of even some more of your traditional looking things, the super farms, the 4-1s, they look at it and they say, well, that's not a tractor. There's nothing that looks like that. And I was at Henry. No, it wasn't Henry. I was at Goshen, Indiana a couple years ago, and the Kentuckian was there. And I took a picture of the Massey Harris 44 grill, and I sent it back to him. And then I took a picture of the whole tractor, and I said, "See, it's just a Massey Harris. It's a tractor. You know, it's just right. Like any other thing out there." So,
and I like Ken Vinny, you know, he put the Farmall on his, and I just think that adds to pulling. I mean, it gives it a little more signature of what it is. I mean, it makes it a little more unique than just hanging motors. It's a little more challenging. You got to work around that, but it kind of gives it its own identity, I think.
Yeah, it's iconic. I love it. I think the grill on the Kentuckian is one of the most recognizable things in the sports of pulling, no doubt about it. So you won at Bowling Green, you won at Fort Recovery. What other hooks stand out to you from this year? A lot of consistent top 5s and top 10s on there. Does anything jump off the page to you as just a really great hook or a great pull you attended in 2023?
There was a lot of good pulls. I mean, you know, we didn't do any good at Rockwell, but it was a good pull. I mean, it's a long way from Kentucky, but I enjoyed it. Fort Recovery, I mean, we had a good schedule to run. I mean, I just got to thank Tim Beatty. I mean, because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have won no championship because I wouldn't have had a way to get there. I mean, he hauled me with his truck while my dad and them took the other rig, other places. And, we just were fortunate enough to have good people around us to be able to help us like that. I mean, nobody swims the river by themselves. I mean, you always got somebody helping you. And I mean, we've been fortunate enough to line ourselves up with good people, and that makes a big difference.
You talked about the Rockwell pull being a neat pull, and on your sheet here it says you got a 9th and a 14th. Tough sledding to a certain degree. What's your impression of that pull? I feel like that pull's knocking on the door of being the next great big one. I feel like it's really trying hard and soon going to be a super national potentially. What was it like up there?
This first time I ever been there was this year, but they treat the pullers right, and it's set up for the pullers. I mean, the pit area is tight, but it's close to the track, and I mean, the fans get a good view. I mean, I thought it was a great pull. I mean, you always got your Toma and Bowling Green. Nothing compares to that. And Chapel Hill, they don't like. I mean, shouldn't say they don't like 2-wheel drives. They got rid of 2-wheel drives a few years ago because there were just so many of us. And I understand that with one track. But as far as a one-track bucket list pull to go to, you need to go to Chapel Hill. There's nothing quite like that down there. That's the real deal down there for a one-track operation.
Chapel Hill that's of all the pulls I've ever been to, there's a special spot. That one's probably my favorite. If I can just come right out and say that there's one. Matt, you ever made it down to the Super Pull of the South in Tennessee, buddy? It's neat. It's neat.
Yeah, unfortunately, this auction thing
gets
in the way of the best pulls. You know, you guys get to talk about this, and I'm like, I guess I'll have to get off the microphone and selling stuff and come see some really, really great shows. I've got my list is growing.
FYI, Michael, Rockwell's goal is to be the next Super National. Here when
I had heard that rumor. I went there 2 or 3 years ago, and there was a guy who was listening in on a headset with the tech officials, and they were talking about the pace of the pull. They wanted the pace to get quicker. They wanted the guys lined up, and one of the exact words were that I heard on that Thursday night. They said, "Hey guys, if we're going to ever go Super National, we're going to have to be quicker than this." So like I knew there was buzzing in the stands that they're trying to make that a Super National.
Well, when they moved their date a couple years ago, it was made very apparent that, and they already do the TV coverage with RFD and stuff, they want to be the next Toma, and they want to be the next Super National, and they may well be. I mean, nobody does a better job of putting the pull on in the middle of a cornfield. I mean, than they do. And that little town is just a burg, it's just a village, whatever you want to call it. But there for 2 or 3 days, it's the Mecca of Iowa. And but yeah, they want to be the next Super National, and that's their goal. And I don't blame them. I mean, it's a great show. They run a good show.
The track is massive. It's a really big, really long track there too.
Yeah.
You like those big distances, don't you, Larry? The 370.
No, not really. In my brain, a track is still 300, 320 tops. Whenever Bob Joestak had to put on bigger fuel tanks to accommodate going a track that was 350, I thought to myself, I said, Larry, and then I knew it was my voice, and then in my head said, yes, Larry. It said, damn, he put on bigger fuel tanks. He's running out of fuel. But yeah, the 350 thing, I get it. It's a shorter, faster run, less stress on the vehicle out of the hole. But yeah, it's Joestak put on bigger fuel tanks. Enough said.
Donnie, do you like a pulling track to be 300 feet, or do you like, you talked about especially in your class where they can it widens that spread? Do you like getting them out there and running and stopping around 340, 50, 60?
I'm okay with a short track. I'm okay with a long track. I just like to know where we're at. I mean, it's just a different game. You got to run them different in the trucks, especially. But I don't think we're going back. I think we're going to continue to throw them out there. I mean, it's just the way of the time. Seems like it's just
yeah.
If you can lay one down, you can distance the pack on a longer track, but on a short track, I mean, it tightens them up.
Mm-hmm. Well, would the ultimate goal be to prevent that kind of what we were talking about, that nail in the coffin, that second run, especially in the mod classes where, like you said earlier, you might as well load it on the trailer. And a lot of times they do. So by just letting them get out there, because a pull-off guarantees. And there was a time, Larry, when the pull-off, especially in the mod classes, 3 would go to pull off, 2 would say broke, and 1 guy would bump the sled. So is the goal kind of, we're going to do everything we can to where we're hooking it once, giving it the beans, and then we don't have to worry about trying to cool it off, overhaul it, and getting it back in 15 minutes.
Oh, I agree. And it's easier. When I had a vehicle, I didn't want to make a second pass. I mean, I didn't want to put an extra run on my engines just for the hell of it. I mean, don't pay any more. But you're going to stress it just as hard as you did the first pass. But the biggest person that objected not having pull-offs was Bill Voorhees, which I might add just got accepted back with his new tractor at Louisville to run with Wayne Sullivan and friends. But he would loved pull-offs because he would barely squeak it out the gate the first time. He'd change his setup and whack your ass the second pass. I mean, that was just Bill's MO. And Bill loved that. And but Bill actually hated to see him go by the wayside. But majority of them, and like Donnie said, times have changed and sleds are going faster. And I mean, out of the gate, you watch them carry the pan. When you move to the other end of the track, Michael, you actually see the pan that far off the ground for the first 100 foot, maybe, before it even thinks about top and center and that fulcrum point. Wow, I knew a big word. Goes this way. And, but you know what I'm saying? I mean, they'll carry a pan 100 foot. They're going to get some speed.
Yeah, but sitting on the back side of the track, I get to watch the back wheels come up on the unlimited modifieds, and then the wheels sit there spinning. That's a neat thing when you see the unlimited mods and they bury that pan at 270, and the tires on the back of the sled are completely off the ground. Come
to the starting line, and I'll have the sled operator put the push down manually down, and you can watch the back wheels come off the ground if you really want to see it. Okay, Jesus.
But will they be spinning?
Well, I'll walk up to them and kick them.
Oh, geez.
Because there's a lot of stuff goes on the starting line that the average spectator doesn't understand.
Yeah, we've learned that tonight. I would say more than any pulling experience I've been a part of. There's a lot of chess being played back there.
Yeah.
Well, I always tell spectators, I'm
Hey,
like,
listen.
if most of the other drivers are back there, there's probably something going on. So, if they're watching from there, then there's some science happening.
I hate to be a party pooper, but I'm going to get off of here, guys. And Donnie, I appreciate, on behalf of Beer Money or Jason, whatever you want to call him this week, I appreciate you coming on the show with us tonight, and love running with you guys and your daddy and you and your whole family. Like you alluded to, it's a family event. It's a family affair. And the fact that if I can't go in the summertime, I miss that part of my family. And I've got friends and family all over the world. I mean, I've been to Rotterdam twice over there, and Australian guys contact me a lot. There's no other motorsport I know of that from the little kids up, whether they're pulling garden tractors or whatever they're pulling, we lost my son Robert one time when he was about 10 years old at Bowling Green. 30,000 people on the grounds, and we didn't know where he was. So you hear on the PA, would Robert Richwine please report to the NTPA entry trailer? Everybody started looking. He was in the back of Terry Blackburn's trailer playing cars with Josh, which is 3 or 4 or 5 years older than him. And Terry found him and he goes, Robert, you better go back to your trailer. Your mom and dad are looking for you. But I mean, there's no other sport with 30,000 people that you would dare lose a child. And when they announced his name, I mean, it just warms my heart. It's, I know Donnie feels the same way, and his dad and I, we get talking, we don't shut up, but it's definitely a family thing. And I'm very proud to be a part of it, but I am going to cut out and see you guys next week or whatever. And I'll leave you alone.
Merry Christmas, Larry.
Merry Christmas to you guys. Tell your daddy I said hi, Donnie.
I will.
Larry, thank you so much. Have an awesome night.
My pleasure.
Well, Donnie, it's been great. Matt, do you have any I've been talking my leg off tonight because I'm a talker and I love pulling and I love meeting awesome people. Put a stopper in me, Matt, and talk to Donnie about all the stuff that's on the tip of your tongue.
Well, tip of the tongue is I'm kind of right with Larry too. We're getting to the end of the night, and I know that Donnie's in the same boat we are. I think he's time too. Just wanted to say thanks for jumping on with us here today. Congratulations. Winning the championship is no joke. And I hope you, the family, and Papa Wayne and everybody have a great holiday. I'm about all wrapped up myself. I've learned a lot tonight. So looking forward to seeing you guys here this summer again. And hopefully we can catch up in person. So thanks again for being on.
Sounds great. I really appreciate y'all having me on, and y'all doing great. Thanks for pulling, and y'all have a good night.
Donnie, thank you so much. It was an absolute pleasure.
Have a good one.
Take care, guys.
Good.